Good, uh, good morning. It's Monday, the 1st of November, and this is the Blackman Who Reads-Aloud, and I'm coming to you from Tampa, Florida, continuing my personal journey into the Federal Writers Project. The first recollection that we're reading today is one coming from Henry Cheatam, an interview with Henry Cheatam with uh, Ida B. Brine. I heard Lincoln set us free. White folks, I glad you dropped by to have a talk with me. I was getting powerfully lonely, said Henry Cheatham, who lives in Maryville, a Mobile suburb. Sure, I'll be glad to tell you some about the slave days. I sure remembers plenty. Well, to begin with, I was born in 1850 near West Point. That's in Clay County, Mississippi, you know. I, I belonged to Mr. Tom Hollison, who was killed in the Civil War. I remembers all the slaves going going in to take a last look at him after they done brung his body home. My mammy's name was Emmeline Chatham, and my pappy's was Sam Chatham. I don't remember my grandpappy or my grandmammy's at all. Us slaves lived in log cabins, what was dubbed it with clay to keep the rain and the wind out, and the chimneys was made of clay and sticks. The beds was homemade and nailed against the wall with legs on the outer side. The master's house was built of logs too, but it was much bigger than the niggers' cabins and shot way out in front of on. After the master was killed, old Miss had a nigger observer, and that he was the meanest devil that ever lived on the Lord's green earth. I promised myself when I growed up that I was going to kill that nigger if and I had the last thing I'd ever done. Sometimes I'd seen him beat my mammy, and one day I seen him beat my auntie, who was big with a child, and the man dug a round hole in the ground and put her stomach in it and beat her for a half hour straight till the baby come right straight out the hole. Why did Mrs. allow such treatment? A heap of times old Miss didn't know nothing about it, but the slaves better not tell her, 'cause that overseer whoop 'em if he finds out that they gone and told yes'm, white folks. I seen some terrible things in my time. When the slaves would try to run away, our overseer would chain on would put a chain on their legs with big long spikes between their feet so they couldn't get away. Then I seen great bunches of slaves put up on the block and sold just like they was cows. Sometimes the children would be separated from their ma's and pa's. I come pretty near to being took away from my mom when the slaves was being divided. One of old Mrs. Tatters was going to Texas, and I was going to have to go when somebody hollered freedom, and sure I was glad 'cause I could stay with my mammy now. In those days, us had plenty of good plain food, much like a pot liquor, greens, cornbread, taters, peas, pears, and at hog killing time we had chitlins and pig jows and backbone. Then us would catch possums at night when they come up in the cornfields. Us never seen no flour though. As for fishing, we never did none, 'cause we had to work too hard. We worked from can to can, from can to can. Get up at sunrise, go to the fields and stay till dark. In the middle of the day, they would send us something to eat to the fields with a barrel of water. But for breakfast and supper, us had to cook our own grub they give us. Our clothes weren't many. Us children wore a one-piece suit made out of Arnsberg, and us would have to take that off at night and wash it and put it back on the next day. As for shoes, children never had none. You see, white folks, I was just a child, just big enough to tote water to the fields. I remembers when the Yankees was a coming through. I hoped to catch their horses in the woods and hope to hide the meat and bury the valuables, because them Yankees took whatever they wanted, and you better not say nothing either, because they had them long swords hanging at their sides. In them days, the slaves done all the work and carried all the news. Their masters sent notes from one plantation to another, and when they wanted the niggas to come to the big house, they would blow an old cow horn. There was a certain number of blows for certain niggas. That is, the niggas that was something. They also would use the horn to possum and coon hunt at night. The little niggas at night went to the big house and spun a weave. I spun many a roll and carded many a cotton, many a bat of cotton. I was also made many a tallow candle by tying strings onto large sticks and dropping them into molds filled with wild talent. I hid many a night in the field corners when I'm going something to get my mommy some bacon. The padded rollers would be out looking for slaves that didn't have a pass from their overseer. And I'd hear them a-coming, and I'd hide till they pass on, because if they catch me, I sure gonna have a sound beating. The owners always took care of us, and when us got sick, they would get a doctor, and old Miss was all right, but that overseer was a devil. He wouldn't allow no meeting on the place. Sometimes us slip down the hill and turn the white wash pot bottom upwards so the sound of our voices would go under the pot. And us would have a singing and praying right there. Most of the slaves could do something to the white, could go sometime to the white folks' church when they gets a pass from the massa. But that mean overseer always tried to keep us from going, so us couldn't learn nothing. He didn't want us to learn to read or write neither. Know him? Us didn't have nothing like matches till I growed up. Us used flint rocks and cotton to start fires. Us didn't have nothing but food and clothes. We didn't have no garden of our own, and don't want no celebrating except that hog killing. That was the biggest day of the year. On Saturday afternoon, we was allowed to play, but I can't remember none of the games. Us played like all the little niggas did then. At nighttime, us just went to our cabins and went to bed, 'cause we weren't allowed to do no singing. Most of the singing was done in the fields. Corn shucking time come when they wanted to get the seed corn from planting it, and us would commence this shucking when it commenced raining. You asked me about funerals and weddings. Us niggas never married, and I don't remember any big weddings of the white folks, but they buried folks the same as they does now in a box. They would bury the slaves same as they done at the white folks, but us didn't even have no baptism on account of the overseer. He didn't like for us to get no religion, 'cause all slaves didn't have hard treatment like us did, 'cause the overseer and master weren't as mean as ours. Now, we didn't know nothing about no voodoo stuff in them days. They only had homemade medicines, that is, unless they got some show enough powerful sick, and then they would go see a doctor. Us use bone set tea made from a weed. Lord, it was bitter than quinine, and it was good for the chills and fever, and it would purge you too. Then us use everlasting tea for fever, and Jerusalem brushweed to get rid of worms. But Missy, I knows there is ghost. 'Cause when I was a little boy, my mammy came in from the fields and laid across the bed, and that I was sitting in front of the fireplace, a big something like a cow without no hind come in the door, and I commenced to beat it with my fist. Then my mommy said, "What's the matter with you, nigger?" That there critter, he walked right out the door. I looked out the window, and there it was a going in Aunt Martha's cabin. I never did see it no more. Then another time, a white man died, and my mammy was staying with his sister, and this spirit, like an angel, come to my mammy and told her to tell the white lady to read the Bible backwards 3 times, 'cause there was one talent between her and Jesus. After that, she was comforted. Another time, my pappy, Sam Cheatam, who was a wicked man, was sitting in front of the fire, and a big bridle dog come in the door and started barking. My pappy said, "What in the hell am that?" and snapped his finger at the dog. Then the dog, he then dropped dead. Some folks say there ain't no such things as ghosts, but I know there is, 'cause there is good spirits and bad spirits. Them was the good old days, missus. Even if us had a hard time, I don't know if it weren't better. It is now. I had to almost go hungry, and I can't get no help from the government, 'cause I'm over 65 years old. Fact is, I believe I'd rather be living back there than today, 'cause at least there was something to eat and nothing to worry about. As for beating, they beat folks now if they don't do right. So what's the difference? Yes, sir, Mrs. I worked as long as I was able, and I didn't ask nobody for nothing. But now it's different, 'cause I ain't able to do no work. I tried to do right, and I ain't never been in one fight in my life. I now belongs to the Corinthian Baptist Church, and I was trying to live. So when the good Lord calls, I'll be ready to answer with a clean soul. I've had 2 wives, but I was only a young nigger when I had the first one, and had 2 children by her. Then I left her 'cause she weren't no count. That's been 40 years ago, and I ain't never seen my children in all them years. My second wife I got when I lived 30 miles below Birmingham, Alabama, at the old Banks Mine. That's been 35 years ago, and us is still together. Us ain't never had no children. No, I don't know nothing about Abraham Lincoln except he sought us free, and I don't know nothing about that either. And that's the end of the reading for today. Have a great day, and thank you.